You buy this deal to flip, watch as I break down the numbers, and let me know what you would think in the comments. So this is a deal that I analyzed before as a rental property, but now I want to analyze it as a flip. Ultimately, I do like having multiple exit strategies, but let's just see what it looks like as a flip. This is a property in Sugarland, Texas, where the homeowner is asking for $190,000. I'm just going to keep that as a purchase price for now. And I've estimated $25,000 in repairs, mostly cosmetic, some updating in the kitchen and bathrooms. Flooring looks good. Of course, if there's major structural or systems updates or repairs like roof, foundation, HVAC, things like that, that number would go higher. In any case, I would not get an appraisal or an inspection. Typically don't do that for buying flip properties. Would get a survey if they don't have one, so I'm just putting that in here. Lender points, which I have the loan information over here. So getting a loan at 75%, 10% interest only, 1 point. And this is private money. If you're going to a hard money lender, almost certainly going to be paying more in points and a higher interest rate. Closing cost, $2,500, just a little over 1%. And we have the loan payment. So that's based on this information here. Interest only. Utilities, roughly $200 a month. May actually end up being $250 a month, at least in the front end. So when you're doing the rehab, utilities are going to be a lot higher because you have workers there using water and electricity and all that stuff. And when it's vacant, obviously it's much lower. Taxes annually, HOA, and holding time 3 months. So estimated I could knock out $25,000 in repairs, get that in 3-4 weeks, and then take about 60 days on the market in this particular market to sell. The ARV, $270,000, realtor commission, so that's 3%. Being a licensed real estate agent, I could pay myself another 3%, but I left that out here. Closing costs, home warranty to buyer. Don't have any money here for buyer credit. That is something you might want to consider. It depends on the type of market, and you can look or have your agent look to see what concessions are being offered for homes that you're using as comps. So they can look that information up on MLS. I would not stage this property. If anything, I would do virtual staging. No additional repairs here. So the net sales proceed of $257,950. All right. So total loan amount here, total acquisition cost, meaning if I were to pay $190,000, which is what they're asking, I'd have to come out of pocket $17,000 in repairs, almost $18,000 in repairs, assuming the repairs actually end up being $25,000 and don't end up being more. So if it ends up being more or taking longer to sell, that's just more money out of my pocket. I don't like to buy any flip with any money out of my pocket. I just don't like coming to closing, having to write a check. I like receiving checks, not writing checks. So we have the net sales proceed, just looking at what this would, the returns would look like. Total holding costs, $7,863 if it only takes 3 months. Given a net profit of $29,813. That actually doesn't sound bad. It's not great, but it doesn't sound bad, right? But when you really break it down, it's a 13% ROI with 11% profit margin. It's a high risk flip, in my opinion. Would I do this deal? Absolutely not. Not at that price. Would I do it at a lower price? Obviously at some price. Yes. Almost at any price, there's some price that would make sense, right? Obviously, there are some properties I would never do. Like there's some properties that I just absolutely would not buy. Did not like the area. Didn't like the condition of the property. Didn't want to get in a mess. Those kind of deals we would actually get under contract at a ridiculously low price and just wholesale them to other investors. But in any case, what about $180,000? Does this deal work for $180,000? So now our profit margin is 15%. I have flip risk high. It's still higher. I mean, look, you're having to come out of pocket $7,700 to do this deal. And that assumes everything's right. But and you can look over here for this and the sensitivity analysis, where if you're off on your sales price by just 5%, that brings your profit, even at this lower price, from $39,000 down to $26,000. Now, if you're off on your sales price and it takes longer to sell, which that usually happens, right? Like, because it takes time, you have to lower your price, and therefore that increases the time on market. It just compounds. It starts to be a compound effect. And then if you have higher repairs on top of that, you can see how paying too much for a flip, it doesn't take long, or it doesn't take much to actually put you at break even, very, very low profit, or maybe even negative. But it's so important to buy properties that you're going to flip, buy them at a low enough price where you have plenty of profit margin to absorb, absorb the risk and ultimately absorb uh, mistakes that you may have made in your analysis, unexpected things that may come up in the market or in repairs. But most of the time, if you're doing your job correctly, you actually just have plenty of margin to make money. And when you knock everything out of the park, you make a lot of money. When you make a couple of mistakes, you'll still make money because you had plenty of margin. So when I do this deal for 180,000, no. What about 175,000? What does that look like? All right, so now we're coming out of pocket still, $3,000. Don't like that. Did I get my private money lender to come up $3,000? Yeah, probably. Would I want to? Well, I'd make 44,000 at the end of this, 45,000. Give me a profit margin of 17%. So would I do that? Maybe. Really, before I committed to it, I would want to go back and have my contractor go through it and really nail down the repairs, 25,000. Are we confident that we can hit that, or maybe be a little bit below that? If so, would I do this deal? Yes. If I'm not confident, or there's some things that we're just not certain about, and we won't know until after we buy it and start tearing down walls or doing whatever, then maybe not. I would really, really push for a lower price. Now, if we go to 170,000, what does that look like? Well, now we've got a net profit of $49,813. Profit margin, 18%. ROI, roughly 24%. Would I do this deal? Yes, 100%. Because I'm not coming out of pocket. So there's no financial risk up front for me. I'm not writing a check at closing. I like that. Matter of fact, I'm getting the check at closing because I'm getting the repairs. So I like that. As long as everything that we're assuming, sales price, repairs, timeline, work out, then this is a great deal. If I'm off, say 5% on sales price, this is still a pretty good deal, 36,000. If I'm off on sales price and it takes me an extra month, then it's about 34,000. That's still a good deal. If I'm off on all three, where maybe repairs are 10% higher, well, that's still about 32,000. That's still a good deal. So would I do this deal for 170,000 as a flip? Yes. If you watch the other analysis, and if you haven't, you can go back and look at it. If you watch the other one, would I do it as a rental? No, it still didn't make sense. It's mainly because of higher interest rates, make it harder to cash flow. Ultimately, you just had to put a lot of money down. Like it was like over 60,000 really to make it make sense as a rental property. But as a flip, absolutely.